Post-game show on a Monday. Terry Ford, Jay Phillips, and a sad Monday, Jay.
Yeah, man, it is, and we got a lot to get to. But got the news today, as many of you have now heard, that the former Gamecock quarterback Steve Taneyhill, terrific high school coach, business owner, and just icon of the University of South Carolina football program and Gamecock athletics, passed away today. He was only 52. He had cancer. He's been sick for a while. And, Terry, I know what I'm going through right now, and a lot of people have already reached out like, hey, cancer sucks, and it does, man. But I just, in terms of Steve, I just want to say he's a couple years younger than me. He got to school while I was still in college. And I threw out on Twitter just a quick RIP, and I said, you changed things here. And Terry, I'm not being hyperbolic. We've talked about this before, you and I know I've talked about it with my audience for many years. And this is all very subjective. I'm not here to rank these guys in terms of overall talent or what they could or couldn't have done at the next level or anything like that. But I'm here to tell you, man, and I mean this with respect to everybody I've seen play quarterback here, and that goes all the way back to Jeff Grants, and I've seen everybody from Jeff Grants forward play quarterback live at South Carolina in one form or another. There's never been somebody like Steve Taneyhill who came in here and, when you think of the timing of his arrival, the first year of the Southeastern Conference, to have somebody with that swagger, that ability and talent. First off, Terry, you got to be good, man. You better be good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to have the swagger, the attitude, the want to, the charisma, I could go on, and those of you who were at Williams-Brice or around the Gamecocks when he was playing know what I'm talking about. It did change things. And remember, that first season, God bless Coach Woods, it started horribly, and Steve, Sparky was a real loyal guy, and maybe just didn't believe that a cocky true freshman from north of the Mason-Dixon line could come down to South Carolina and lead the team in its first year in the SEC. And finally there was that players-only meeting that became kind of stuff of legend, and they said, we want Steve. And he led them to wins in 5 of their last 6 games, had a really close loss at Florida, won at Clemson, signed the Tiger Paw that year, iconic moment,
right.
All those kind of things. And he's a freshman. And then went on to have a fantastic career here. Statistically brilliant career. Won Carolina's first bowl game, beat Clemson again, beat Georgia, beat LSU. He was just a really fun guy to follow and watch and just absorb what it was that he was all about. And took some of that after his playing days to some championship teams in high school football, like I said, and applied it to business. And just, people love to be around him. And it really did sting this morning when I heard that. But like I say, man, and that's, look, I love Todd and Connor and Garcia, or what Spencer's done, what Lenoris is doing. I'm not really ranking as much as saying that I just don't know, because of the timing of it all, that there has ever been a quarterback like Steve Taneyhill at South Carolina. And like I say, first and foremost, you got to back it up with the ability and the talent. And he had the talent, I promise you. Arm strength, make all the throws, all those kind of things, man. I mean, dude was he was a difference maker for Carolina, and he was fun to watch. And to his family and those who loved him most, we're certainly sending condolences. And he'll be missed. But he changed Gamecock football. There's no doubt. He changed Gamecock football.
It's interesting because obviously, I didn't grow up around here like you did watching Gamecock football, but I remember being young Terry Ford, and you see highlights of Taneyhill. There was a game day, early game day profile of him way back, and because the ponytail was the thing, right? The rat tail, ponytail,
Right.
whatever. No other quarterback in the country was sporting one of those babies. And he it just, so he stood out automatically in what he was doing at South Carolina, how well he played as a freshman. And I was going back watching some highlights today, and just from the highlights I'm watching, I mean, like one time he takes off, runs for a first down, and he just keeps running down the field. And he's doing the first down sign, and he's going crazy. And this is like, today we see it a lot, right? You weren't seeing that back then, right? You weren't seeing guys being that enthusiastic and celebrating moments the way Steve Tannehill did. The baseball bat swing on the sideline.
Yeah.
I mean, the signing the Tiger Paw. I mean, think about that when it was done in the year it was done. That's just, people didn't do that, right? And he was so enthusiastic. And you're right. From everything I was looking at today, the timing it was a perfect storm, right? First year of the SEC, cocky, confident freshman. I remember I was watching an interview with him. He said, I was begging Coach Woods to let me play as a freshman. And all these things came together, and it was like the right guy with the right personality and the right talent at the right time. And it just exploded. And it was fantastic just to go through it today looking at the history.
Yeah, and again, look at his career numbers. Again, one of the best quarterbacks to play here. Those offenses, once Sparky left and Brad came in, and Brad was such an offensive-minded guy, things really picked up for a few years, especially his junior and senior year. I know how much Deuce thought of him, and that 95 offense, Terry, was, man, that thing was electric. They didn't do much defensively, but they knew how to score points and chuck the ball around the field. So. Again, the timing, that's so much of life, right? Timing is everything. And it's like a lot of things in sports, and especially for Gamecock fans, the what if question, what if, and I'm not saying Carolina wins the SEC or something in their first year. You did have some nice wins that year, but do you get a couple of other games under your belt? Do you go to a bowl game that year? Are things a little bit different? Does it matter? That depends on your point of view, but like I say, once he finally came in, the jolt, and again, man, I was a student still. What he meant to campus, what he meant to the student section on game day, those kind of things. It was palpable, Terry. It was. I mean, very, very few people get a chance to really make that kind of cultural impact, instant impact. And Steve Tannehill was one of those people. He truly, truly was.
And just the idea of he gave Carolina football, from what I was seeing and reading and watching, just an identity when it sorely needed one at that point.
Well, when you're coming into the big bad SEC, it's not easy. And there were a lot of people who didn't really want you in the league, didn't think you belonged in the league, and to have a guy like that carry you through it, and not on top of that, to beat Clemson twice and both his wins in Death Valley, that helped. Win the first bowl game. I'm looking right now where I'm sitting here at the house. I've got one of those freshly printed first bowl win little mini posters that I got outside the parking lot of Joe Robbie Stadium. I'll never forget that day. And that was Steve Tannehill leading the team against West Virginia at the CarQuest Bowl. It was a good time, man. It was a fun ride under Steve for a few years.
And then, once he, moves out of his playing career, he starts coaching high school and massively successful.
Yeah. Took that same swagger to the kids at a couple of different levels and did great things. He, again, dude knew what was up, man. Knew how to push the right buttons with people. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's like I said, sad day, and especially if you got to sit there and watch him play and what he meant at the time. And sometimes as time goes on and generations go on, how it just gets that separator. You know how that goes, Jay, from generation. You get to maybe a few generations away from his time, and they can look at stats and they can watch highlights, but they don't understand the impact because they weren't there. And like you're talking about, and Gunner and Jamie were talking about today, and the Gamecock Central guys, Chris and Wes, just the impact that Tannehill had on the not just the football program, but the university and the fan base was unreal.
No, everybody. Yeah, it was. I'm telling you, I can sound like old dude if I need to here, Terry, in order to relay my experience. There hasn't been, in my opinion, there hasn't been someone like him, certainly since at Carolina, and I would be hard pressed for the stories I've heard. And again, when he got here, I was 21 years old. I was nearing the end of my college run, and I mean, you could talk about guys that are major athletes and stars like John Roach or Alex English a couple of years later. Certainly George Rogers, I think, is a different kind of discussion to have. But even Big George, I wouldn't say, and this certainly isn't to discount George in any way, and we'll talk about Heisman Trophy winners in a little bit. But even George didn't have that instant impact. I mean, George ran for 1,000 yards in 3 straight seasons. George was a first-team All-American his junior and senior year on the Bob Hope Special his junior and senior year, for those of you who know what the Bob Hope Special was.
Yeah.
That's right. If not, look it up. It was great. But, I wouldn't say that it was that instant just smack you upside the head impact, right? I mean, you got used to George just being great. Steve came in, man, and just kicked everybody in the seat of the pants. I mean, it was just, again, I just don't know that anybody has ever really, and I'm sitting here trying to rack my brain, Terry. I just don't believe there's another Gamecock athlete who has ever had that kind of direct impact in the way that Steve Tannehill did. I genuinely, as someone who's seen a lot, if you, and you are kind of asking me, I'm putting him at the top of that list.
Yeah, just like today, watching it and reading about it, and just it's one of those things, again, like I said to you, you can read about it and watch it, but to experience it takes it to a whole new level. So lucky you, my friend.
Yeah, well, a lot of us that were there then, you
Yep.
know, and again, that first year of the SEC, it was an interesting season, man. And again, going down to Florida that year, that Florida team was really good, and Steve just about got it done. And then the following week to go to Clemson and get a W, it was a big deal, man. It's a big deal.
All right, we'll pop back in. A lot to get to today. Obviously, some Gamecock weekend news. Lenore Sellers. It's not a done deal yet, but it feels like it's becoming a done deal that Sellers will come back and quarterback the Gamecocks in 2026. So we will get into that next. Also, feel free on the Firehouse Sub text line. Also, the AAA Heating and Air phone line. You want to call with your thoughts and memories of Steve Tannehill as, again, Gamecock legend, passing away this morning at the age of 52. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford, postgame show. We go up until 6 on the game. Steve Tannehill touchdown pass in that 92 game with South Carolina and Clemson. Of course, heavy hearts today as Gamecock legend Steve Tannehill passes away at the age of 52. Post-game show, Jay Phillips, Terry Ford, talking about many things today, including the passing of Steve Tannehill. That was a game, man. That was that was a Death Valley, right?
Yeah, it was. It was, and it just again, man, impact. It's that might be the best word to describe the one single thing that Steve did here. The impact that he had on the football program was big, and A1 came after him, and Brad was able, I think, to go out and tell some quarterbacks, hey, come in here and do this, and got Eric Henry and Phil Petty and those guys a few years later. So, just a dude who changed the way people could look at Carolina football.
All right, 803-404-6100. Nick has been holding on. Nick, appreciate you holding on. You're on the post-game show on the game. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, fellas. Jay, it's good to hear you back in studio.
Thank you,
just so we don't have to hear Siri in the background telling you that there's road closures or construction or whatnot. But no, man, it's really all good to hear you boys. My thing about Steve, it shook my Monday up. I just happened to be pulling up X, and I see that Steve Tannehill has passed away at the age of 52, and I'm like, damn, I'm only 48, so I remember those times. I remember, my favorite Steve Tannehill moment will always be when he signed his name in the Paul. And I even saw where Clemson fans were like, yeah, he even, he signed his name in the Paul, and he beat us on that Saturday, but much love, much respect, and it was great that he stayed. He's from Altoona, Pennsylvania, and he stayed in South Carolina. He loved it down here so much that he stayed, and he tried to give back. Ran a couple businesses, so my thoughts, my prayers go out to his family. My favorite quarterback growing up, he's not my favorite Gamecock quarterback. I did like him, and I did represent one of those old Carolina script hats with the old fake rat tail on the back in the day. But, Phil Petty was my guy, always will be, and it's a sad deal all the way around, but it's where we're at. Over the weekend, we got Lenoris, I guess, was doing an appearance at Dick Dyer Mercedes and signing autographs, and I guess that's how we found out that he's coming back.
Yeah, not a done deal yet, Nick. I've asked around a little bit to find out, and the word is certainly encouraging.
Right. Yeah, they still got to work out some NILs. Like this whole college football landscape today is just we're not even going to do that. I don't want to hold up, everybody else that's online or waiting to speak, but glad he's coming back. Kind of felt he was coming back. And let's go. We'll see what happens in 26. Appreciate you guys, and have a Merry Christmas.
Same to you, Nick.
Right
Thanks,
back at you, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, Terry, it's interesting because I suppose you and I might come at this from a little bit of a different angle, and we come at it together. I don't mean separately. I think you and I were – I don't want to say – I won't speak for you directly, obviously, but maybe that we were of a belief that this might be a little bit more of a difficult situation for Lenoris to choose between because he – again, and we know this isn't conjecture. This isn't our opinion. We know there are still a lot of people at the next level who think very highly of him. And you you do wonder if he had stayed in the draft process, what might happen. I know there are some out there, I don't want to say they're cynical, but some who say, well, he had such a disappointing 2025 that there's no way he's a first-round pick. I personally still do not believe that's the case. Now, when you want to make the separate case or flip that coin to say LaNorris needs to come back because he can work on so many things and polish his skill set, I agree with that 100%. And if I may, Terry, and don't laugh at me too hard here, and I'm going to go a long way around to make a point real quick.
Okay, go for it.
But Phillip Rivers played in the NFL yesterday, and he's 44 years old.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that Phillip Rivers had to get called into duty is because the NFL still sucks at developing quarterbacks on a regular basis.
Yes, they do.
They didn't have anybody to choose from. They didn't have anybody to choose. You got to develop quarterbacks, right? Mm-hmm. The point I make in that is, in order to get better, you got to play, and you gotta work on those things. And if you are LaNorris Sellers next year, and you were picked, as you and I have both agreed, the chances are pretty good that if you were a first-round pick, you'd be a second half of the draft, first-round pick, which means you're going to a pretty good team that most likely has an established starter that you're not going to unseat. And that can work two ways. You can stand behind somebody and learn how to play, be pressed into duty if there's an injury, or you're just going to kind of sit there for a while because they drafted you, but then they realize, well, our guy's already good, or whatever. So I'm glad LaNorris is coming back, but I didn't think he was going to go play at another school if he were to come back to college football. But I think it is good news. And, again, I can't say I've had it confirmed, but I have asked around, and everything looks very good for his return from everything I've gotten, and I'm not the only one reporting that. I thought maybe he'd go a little deeper to see, and maybe he's gotten some of the feedback that he wants,
mm-hmm.
And has decided, I can work with Kendall Briles. I'm going to make a lot of money at South Carolina for one more season, and then we'll go up to the next level.
I think he got enough intel probably to give him an idea of, and look, again, because, we weren't at Dick Dyer, so we weren't hanging out with LaNorris. So we don't know exactly.
So, wait, that means you didn't get me a Mercedes for Christmas?
Oh, I did, but I didn't get it's a long story. Saw one on the street, hot-wired it. We'll figure it out later. But anyway, it's just the idea that, look, I do believe that he would have been a first-round pick. I think maybe between 20 and 32, I could have seen him going. But maybe he got some intel that made them decide coming back was the better way, especially with an offensive coordinator who will build the offense truly around his skill set, and a guy who has shown with how Kendall Briles worked with KJ Jefferson at Arkansas that this is a guy that can help LaNorris, can help him develop and improve, and can make him shine to where maybe that draft grade can go up and get himself back to where he was at the start of 2025, right, Jay? Where there were people who said he could have been the first pick overall. So
I think the Kendall Briles hire.
Yep, I think it means a big deal here.
And Shane at telling us that he relied, at least in part, obviously, on what LaNorris's thoughts in this is a huge part of why LaNorris is back in Columbia.
I believe if the status quo were to stay the status quo, we might be having different conversations. I think bringing Kendall Briles is a big deal in this thing. I really do. Yeah. And I got another idea, too, to throw at you in the next segment that hit me over the weekend as I was hearing about this that we haven't even thought of. And I don't know if it's anything. I don't know if it's a little something. Maybe, I don't know, but I'll throw it at you in the next segment and just tell me what you think. I saved it for the show, my man.
Tease.
How about that? All right, that's coming up as we continue talking LaNorris Sellers on the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging around as we go till 6 on the game.
And I came from Pennsylvania, so I didn't really understand either. But we won our first game up there in '92, and our fans rushed the field. And it was, it was crazy. But that's what this is like. It's a different game, especially this year. No game last year, and just the way our seasons have gone, I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere in the stadium on Saturday night.
There again, Steve Tannehill, interview from a few years ago, talking about the Carolina-Clemson rivalry. And, of course, if you have not heard, Steve Tannehill passing away this morning at the age of 52. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford, postgame show. We will get to you at 803-404-6100. Hang in there for a minute. And we'll get some more memories and thoughts on Ryan Tannehill on the AAA Heating and Air phone line and also on the Firehouse Sub text line. Looks like I get Justin in here real quick. Justin, thanks for holding. I just lost Justin. That was on me. Oh, but I did hit the button, and I've got. Let me get Justin back here because I want to get Justin first. Justin, sorry, man, I lost you. You back?
Yeah, I'm back, guys.
All right, man, you're the post-game show.
How you doing, Terry J?
Hey, buddy. We're doing great.
Yep.
Thanks.
Hey, guys. I love Steve Terry. He was my favorite quarterback. That's a nice kid. I grew up watching him, and yes, we beat Tennessee. That was my fun memories of him. And, when Tennessee about playing for SC, we spoiled that party. I was happy about that back in '92. Also, we beat Clemson. We almost beat Florida, too, because if we beat Florida, we might have beat three-ranked teams, And also, I met Steve Taylor last year, and we talked the fun memories. I hate where he's going, but he was always my favorite quarterback. West Peace Steve Taylor. I pray for you and your family. Stay strong, go Gamecocks.
All right, thanks, Justin. We appreciate it, man.
I mean, that Tennessee, we talk about the Clemson win, but that Tennessee win, Terry, I still try to, man, did that really happen? But it did. They did beat Tennessee that year and held off a 2-point conversion to hold on. And a lot of people believe that got John Majors fired. I think they're right. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, instant impact when he came in. They went 5-1 and after being 0-5 and again, I keep saying it, and it's not like I told you, I'm not being hyperbolic. I just don't know that there's ever been an instance in a season with a player that did that. The only person, and it's different because of their personality, but I was thinking about this, and I know you got something else you want to hit me with, but maybe the only other person that you could say had something similar, and it's a whole different circumstance, might be like Michael Roth, because it came out of nowhere, and I don't want to, and Steve didn't come out of nowhere. Again, Steve was one of the most high, remember, Steve Tannehill, the final decision as a kid from Altoona, the final decision for him was South Carolina or Alabama, basically that was his final two choices. He was one of the most highly touted quarterbacks in that recruiting cycle. So he didn't come out of nowhere. In a relative sense, you might argue that Michael Roth did, but the instant impact Michael Roth had on Carolina baseball when it was finally his turn was something. But I wouldn't equate them directly. But if you know what I'm saying, just because, again, I don't know that Michael Roth, as great as he ended up becoming once he became a full-time guy, was ever that cultural spark plug that we saw from Steve Tannehill. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. No, I understand what you're talking about. And you try, because I see where you're going with Roth, but yeah, Tannehill, especially you lose your first 5 games your first year in the conference, right? You're 0-5. People are going, oh my God, really? And then this freshman who's been pulling on, Coach Woods pants, let me play. And finally it's like, all right, you know what, team meeting, we want Tannehill to play. And he goes, it's almost like a Disney movie.
Well, I'm not sure he was going to let him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. I mean, God bless Sparky Woods. I'm not sure if the players hadn't a darn near revolted. I don't know, Terry. I genuinely, I don't know.
I tell you what, though, that was the thing, man. Going 5-1 down the stretch, almost going 6-0.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Played a really good game in Gainesville. Just Florida, and Florida was part of that first SEC title game against Alabama that season. And Steve Spurrier's team was really good.
The other thing again, and I talked about this with you in the first riff of the show. Watching some of the highlights of Tannehill play, just that unbridled joy and that personality and just the way, again, just running for a first down and he's high-stepping down the sideline like Deion Sanders pointing first down. He's just running for a first down, scores a touchdown, the baseball bat thing, just the excitement and the enthusiasm he brought onto the field. And just, it was almost like, look, guys, I don't care what's been going on. I'm here. We're going to win. Follow me. I don't know how the hell we're going to do it. We're going to go win the game. Let's roll.
Well, I mean, and I don't want to dwell, Terry. I just wish, we talked a lot this season about, man, what if the offense for Carolina in 2025 could have just been just incrementally better, not dramatically better. If the Gamecock defenses of Steve Tannehill's era could have just been incrementally better, I would love to know how much more winning South Carolina would have done.
Yeah,
because I'm telling you, they had difficulty tackling people. I'm just going to say that. That wasn't on Steve in the offense.
And again, we'll talk more about Steve Tannehill as the show goes along. Again, sad day for Gamecock fans as Steve Tannehill passes away at the age of 52 this morning. All right, so talk about Lenoris and the announcement that it looks like he will be back. It's not official yet,
good.
But it's going that way. And I do believe that he got some NFL intel. I do think that. And obviously, his draft stock not as high as it was coming into the year. I get that. Again, I still think he would have been a first-round pick. But again, you get this offense that's going to be built around your skill set. Offensive coordinator who has a history of putting quarterbacks in great positions to succeed. And also, let's not be naive. The NIL's a piece here too. Maybe, I don't know, Jay, 5, 6, 10 years ago, there's no NIL. Maybe Lenoris Sellers says, I'm going to go play in the NFL because I can go get paid in whatever first or second round, right? It's a different world now. So you can get your NIL deal. You can make money, make good money, come back, and, again, play an offensive system that's going to be built for you. And hopefully you have the year you were wanting to have in 2025 and build your draft stock. I also want to throw something else at you, too. Okay. And maybe this is just me, I don't know. I bumped my head on the windshield driving back this weekend.
I believe you.
So, thanks. Appreciate that. So, last year did not go well for anybody, right? You go 4-8 as a team. You, as a quarterback, did not have the year you expected to have, wanted to have, everybody thought you would have. I mean, I'm not just talking about here. I'm talking about the country. You've never, ever gone through that before, right? You tell me what you think. How much of this could be, I don't want to end my career like that. I don't want to go down 4-8. I don't want to walk away underachieving. I don't want to walk away, everybody's got a sour taste. I want to come back and run this again and see if we can go out on a high note. How much of that could play here?
Yeah, I think some. To what degree? I think maybe we can learn. Lenoris will ultimately have an opportunity to speak publicly about this. I think you raise a fair question, and I can't answer it directly. I think for any of us, there's a shot at redemption that we want if things don't go the way we expected or others expected of us or from us. I think that's fair, Terry. At the same time, not to maybe push back on you, but just to simply say, had the right things been told to Lenoris, and I say the right things, that's a point of view. When it comes to the next level, look, let's put it this way. As much as you might feel that way in life, if there were NFL types who said, listen, dude, you're still a top 10 pick.
Well, that's a different ballgame. I think if he gets that, he's gone. I'm just saying when you're sitting around, you're not getting the intel that maybe you want to get.
Right.
And it's not coming back the way it was earlier. And you've gone through the year you've gone through. And you start to think, saying, well, I can come back in this really quarterback-friendly offense. I can have a big year. I can rebuild my draft stock. And you know what? I can make up for this 4-8 mess that we all went through. I don't want to leave like that. You can, because it adds. I don't think it's a big reason, but I was just thinking about the idea. I mean, we've all played sports. You pitched. I mean, you take a ball, you go to the mound. Your team is depending on you to go out there and give them a good outing so they can possibly win a baseball game, right?
Yep.
And when you go out there and suck, you feel bad for yourself. You feel bad for your team. You let everybody down, right? So,
Yes.
you know, I don't think it's a big deal here, but as you're talking yourself into coming back, how much of that could be
if you
that?
get a shot, like I said, if you get a shot at redemption, and it's there, then yes, you absolutely take it. So,
but again, I agree with you. If he's a top 10 pick, he's gone. No offense to anybody. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
All right, we'll pop back in here. We're going to open up the vault.
Oh, good.
No, let's Jay or nay with you. I got some ideas for Jay or nay. Let's do it now while you're still awake.
Hey, whatever floats your boat.
All right, man. It's a post-game show. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford here on the game. All right, post-game show. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford. A little Jay Renee in a minute. Again, if you just jumped on, haven't really been paying attention to the world of sports, sad day here in Columbia and the Midlands, the state of South Carolina, as Gamecock legend Steve Tannehill passing away this morning at the age of 52. And we'll get you some more sound going back in the day. I found an interesting CarQuest Bowl piece, a little coverage from the local news, Channel 19. I'll play for you here in a little bit, my man. Interesting. Very cool. Interesting. Yeah, we'll get that in. Also, we'll get to some text on the Firehouse Sub text line, and also get back to the AAA Heating and Air phone line, 803-446-100.
That story didn't include any B-roll footage of a 24-year-old me in the parking lot post-game, did it?
Well, there's a guy that looks something like you holding a whiskey bottle in one hand while his head was in the bushes. I don't know what that means.
Wasn't me. I don't drink whiskey. Wasn't me. Good news. That's good to know.
Well, if you did with your head in the bushes, you probably didn't after that, is my guess.
No comment.
It only takes one bad experience with Mr. Daniels or Mr. Bean.
I had my experience, as I've said before, a few years earlier than 24. Brown Looker and I got into a little scuffle.
Got your tail whooped, didn't you?
The next morning we shook hands and agreed to go our separate ways, and we've been fine ever since. I'm gonna leave it at that, Terry.
Yeah, I tell you, I hung out one night going to Skateland. I went to Skateland with my friend Mr. Daniels, and we'll leave it at that.
All right.
It did not go well for me.
I believe you.
Me. It didn't go well the trouble I got into from Dean Ford didn't go well either.
Sure.
Yeah, not a good night.
That'd be the least of my concerns.
That will be the fourth hour podcast story that I can't tell.
There you go.
All right. Well, Jay or nay? All right, Dylan Raiola, Nebraska quarterback, is transferring. Uncle got fired at Nebraska. Jay or nay? Red flags coming out of Lincoln with the Matt Rule program.
Well, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to answer this two ways. I'm going to say nay on red flags maybe, but certainly red flags, I'll say Jay on the Raiola family because, Dylan's dad, Dominic, was a big-time player there, and then the uncle gets fired. The brother, his little brother, decommitted. Now he is out, so it's pretty obvious the Raiolas are not happy with Matt Rule. What that means for Matt Rule long term, I can try to separate them, but clearly the Raiolas have issues. So that's where I'll go with that one.
DJ Lagway, quarterback of Florida, going to the transfer portal is a smart move by Lagway to get the heck away from Gainesville.
Well, Jay, and look again. I guess that's a point of view. I'll say Jay. Maybe it's good to have a fresh start with somebody else. I also read this morning, and I can't confirm any of this yet, but it does seem like some of the guys that cover UF football say that initial conversations between Lagway's folks and John Sumrall's folks didn't go well, and that maybe DJ just decided that fresh start is the right thing to do. I'm hearing a lot of whispers about heading back home to Texas and maybe playing for Baylor. Obviously not confirmed yet. I mean, maybe Lane Kiffin goes after him. I don't know. But highly touted kid. But, man, Terry, he's got to stay healthy.
Yes, he does. That's a problem, a huge problem. And quit throwing the ball to the other team. That was a huge problem, too.
That
All right.
also matters.
Micah Parsons tearing his ACL means the Packers are no longer a Super Bowl contender. Jay or nay?
Well, it certainly lessens the chance, and I was obviously watching that game as a Bronco fan yesterday, and I hate that. Whether Denver won or lost or whatever, Micah Parsons is just one of the greatest to ever do it. And I hate, and when you see a guy go down with nothing happened, if you will, non-contact, you know something is wrong. I mean, look, they with the loss yesterday and the Bears win, they fall to second place. They're basically the last team in as we speak. So I think, and they've got other injuries too, Terry. So it's really a matter now, I think, of how Matt LaFleur can raise them up mentally to get it done these last couple of games and stay in the playoff hunt. But it certainly lessens their opportunity to be a champion. I'll say that.
Jay or nay, Patrick Mahomes tears his ACL. Travis Kelce looks like he'll be retiring. The Chiefs are missing the playoffs for the first time in 100 years. The Chiefs, as we know it, the dynasty will no longer be the same. Jay or nay?
Jay, it'll no longer be the same. But I think Patrick Mahomes can lead the Chiefs back to a lot of great things in a couple of years.
Hour 2 coming up on the postgame show.
in the CarQuest Bowl all week long. We've been covering the Gamecocks' every move. So we're going to go on out to Columbia Metropolitan Airport, where our own Camille Bradford standing by live with, I'm sure, a lot of Gamecock fans.
Brad, the scene is absolutely wild here, where an estimated 12,000 fans have gathered to welcome their Gamecocks. The plane has just touched down. The folks have been out here in 35-degree weather for as long as 3 hours. In just a moment, we're going to have shots from the airplane with the team and coaches getting off, and we'll toss it back to you right now while we get ready for that next video. Brad?
There you go. Channel 19 on the scene at the airport. 12,000 people waiting for the plane to come in from the CarQuest Bowl with the first Gamecock Bowl victory. Remember that, Jay Phillips?
Well, I was, let's see. I don't know where I would have been at that moment.
Drunk in the bushes. Drunk in the bushes.
Well, so I was going to say probably somewhere on I-95 driving back and realizing, oh, my God, I drove all the way from Columbia to Miami. And now I have to go home again. I'll never do that again, Terry Ford. I promise you. That was my dude. Seriously, when you get to Daytona and you pass where I-4 and 95 meet, and you realize how far Miami still is, my goodness,
it's a truck, man.
But yes, so I was probably on the way back home with the game guy. I should have just said, "Hey, can I catch a ride on the plane?" But yeah, no, we had a good time down at that bowl game, man, and like I said, that was a big deal. That was a big deal. So thinking a lot about Steve Taneyhill and what he meant to Carolina football. He did a lot of big things around here in a short amount of time.
Yeah, and again today we get the tragic news that Steve Taneyhill passing away this morning at the age of 52. And we've been talking about it on the air all day today, ever since around 10:30-ish, 10:30, 11 o'clock. Once the unfortunate news became confirmed. So we'll continue to talk about it, 803-446-6100, AAA Heating and Air phone line, and the Firehouse Sub text line. All right, we had this thing called the Heisman Trophy. All right, Phillips, you're a voter. You wouldn't tell us anything last week, so your stupid voter rules.
Yeah. Hey, I don't make the rules.
All right, now that
the rules.
Mendoza won, Pavia finishes second. How'd you vote?
I finished just as the order was, man. I voted Fernando Mendoza 1, Diego Pavia 2, and Jeremiah Love 3. That was my vote. I voted last Sunday morning, and as I was telling you, I was down. I knew I was going to vote for Jeremiah 3rd, so I was really down to who was going to get my 3-point vote and my 2-point vote. And honestly, Terry, I finally went over the numbers. And look, I mean, Fernando didn't lose, and those big wins, and I know some people, you and I were talking this morning, some people were knocking him, like, well, he didn't play great against Penn State, and they ended up stinking. Well, Penn State still had a bunch of dudes. That was a nice win. The Oregon win, the Iowa win. They throttled Illinois, who was supposed to be good anyway. I think the Illini ended up being okay. But then the way he handled himself in the Big Ten championship game. And I just think all those things stacked up. Listen, I think both of those young men were incredibly impactful, not only on their schools and their programs, but on college football. And I told you as well, look at this. People on Twitter say all kinds of stupid things all the time. And it wasn't to me, because actually this time I just realized about an hour ago, I never did put out a tweet about who I voted for. I guess I should have, but I didn't even think about it. But just seeing, it's a popularity contest. Well, if it's a popularity contest, you had the other two finalists were from Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So there's your popularity.
Right.
But to in almost in any of our lifetimes, Terry, any of our lifetimes, to hear that the top two finishers in the Heisman Trophy voting were quarterbacks at Indiana and Vanderbilt, two programs that have literally been at the bottom of their respective conferences for the better part of 5 decades. That shows you the impact that those two guys had. And I gave the nod to an undefeated Fernando Mendoza. I love what Diego did on the field for Vanderbilt the last couple of years. It was fun to watch. But in the slightest of nods, I voted for Mendoza number 1, and I thought he gave a terrific speech. That's all I watched. I tuned in right at about 10 till 8, just in time because I was watching the Gamecocks and the Citadel. at the same time. So I flipped over to watch the speech, and I thought he was terrific. The way he thanked his parents, his grandparents, his team. Yeah, it was a big deal. Yeah, so happy for him. And that was my order of finish, just as they finished officially.
Yeah, and I've said that I thought Mendoza would win, but I would have voted for Pavia myself. But I thought it was going to be a lot closer than it was, to be quite honest. And I thought those two would be neck and neck, and it ended up not being that way. And I think, look,
I was a little surprised by that too.
Yeah.
And in looking at the regional breakdown, there was not, even in the South,
right,
or anywhere. There was really no region of the country where the vote was overly close.
Yeah.
Mendoza ran away with this thing.
No, and I think, look, first of all, he played his tail off for the undefeated number one team in the country. And I think a lot of people probably voted after Indiana won the Big Ten championship in a game they weren't favored over Ohio State. Big brand. And Diego Pavia didn't play in the SEC championship game. So, I mean, you get that, that last thought in your head, if you're a voter, that what Mendoza and Indiana did, which kind of then wipes away what Pavia did the last time he took the field. He did something Vanderbilt never does. They went to Knoxville. They just didn't beat Tennessee. They boat raced Tennessee.
They throttled them. Yeah, absolutely.
But then Mendoza gets a chance to show off himself and his team at the Big Ten championship game. And I also think that, again, I think there are, and I don't know the percentage of this, but there are people who get turned off by Mendoza's personality or the brashness or the cockiness, or I had somebody tell me.
Pavia's, you mean?
Pavia, Mendoza, good God. Yeah, Pavia's brashness, the attitude. I had somebody say to me, man, if they stop showing Pavia's mom in the stands all the bleeping time, the brothers got in trouble and they were running around Nashville acting like fools. I just think that there were people that were turned off by just the Diego Pavia vibe. Now, should you vote that way? Of course not. But people aren't objective. And you look at Mendoza, remember he did that screaming post-game thing after the Big Ten championship game, said he hadn't hit puberty yet. And it was just natural though, right? Joyful, excited, and that just came off so well. And sometimes Pavia rubbed people the wrong way with his chip on his shoulder. And I don't know how much that hurt Pavia, but here's the saddest part. If someone didn't vote for him for that reason, he gave them all the ammo they needed after the ceremony. That was just classless.
Yeah.
I hate to say it 'cause I like him, but that was classless, dude.
Yeah. And I'll be honest. I know that he's had a reputation. I didn't let that factor into my decision making at all. And honestly, I didn't even I'd known about his prior instances with that situation at New Mexico and stuff like that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to say it on
Google
the air.
it.
You can go look it up.
Google.
Yeah, it ain't hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that and one of my daughters later Saturday night showed me the Instagram post, and I at that point I was almost immediately like, oh no, we're not here to do that. Like that's and then the next morning, I guess yesterday morning, we saw another poor use of wording and judgment with him out at a party, and something that was clearly very intentional and known. It wasn't, I'm not going to get into this whole, oh, it was an accident or what a mistake. A mistake, sure, perhaps, but two massive mistakes like that, Terry, doesn't come across well, because you know what you're doing at that point. Again, if you want to isolate one of them, maybe I'll give you that. But when you have two of them in a very short amount of time, you know what you're doing and you know why you're doing it.
Sure.
The apology felt kind of forced.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure, I'm not doubting any sincerity. I'm saying it felt forced. I hope he means it. I do.
Yeah.
But I think it's a bad look for him and for Vandy that he acted the way he did, and be disappointed. That's fine. I mean, any of us,
sure.
Let's face it, any of us that have been in any kind of contest, whatever it might be in life, what do we always hear? There's only one winner, or second's first loser, or those kind of things. All right, well, But that event, like I said to you earlier, that the quarterbacks of Indiana and Vanderbilt ended up 1-2 in the Heisman Trophy voting.
Yep.
It is just remarkable, and it's a heck of an accomplishment. And so it was disappointing.
It was, because
I won't sit here and be overly judgmental or sanctimonious. It speaks for itself in terms of what he did. And again, I do hope that his apology is sincere. But bad look, and tough to what is it? Tough to put the genie back in the bottle, kind of a thing.
Oh, genie's way out of the bottle. Yeah, genie's gone out of the bottle. I love that show, by the way. I love me some Barbara Eden. Anyway,
Sure.
Anyway, well, you just took my focus off of what I was going to say. I just got Barbara Eden in my head now.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. But I guess the thing about it for me was not only were you, and he says in his apology about not wanting to distract anything from this or that. Well, you distracted from Mendoza's moment. Fernando Mendoza deserved that moment, and not for you to soil it like you did the New Mexico State emblem. And you, Diego Pavia, shouldn't have taken away from what you did this year, and you accomplished, and your team accomplished, and you did. Not only did you take away from Mendoza's moment, but you took away from your own moment, your own season. Everything you've done at Vanderbilt is now, for the short term, pushed aside, and everybody's looking at what you put out on social media after you lost the Heisman Trophy. It's just a shame, man.
It's tainted. I agree with you, and there will always now be, it's a great year, but man, remember that Heisman ceremony afterwards when he acted like that? Yeah, it'll be part of the story.
And you know what? Too,
it is too bad.
Here's what I don't want to hear this one, and I've already seen this and heard it, and even Pavia in his apology, man. I just have this chip on my shoulder. I've been doubted every step of my journey. No. That has nothing to do with this.
No, I agree.
You losing and being disappointed and being disrespected and not recruited and all that has nothing to do with the way you chose to act after the Heisman Trophy ceremony.
Well, you know who else was doubted his whole high school career?
Mendoza.
College career? Yeah,
Mendoza.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that dude was very lightly recruited. Wasn't even the starting quarterback in high school for a while. I mean, they both had kind of almost the same path in a lot of ways. Which, you know what else that tells you, too? Listen to this, Jay. Not only do we have the Vanderbilt quarterback and the Indiana quarterback fighting for the Heisman Trophy, which to me almost is like a sign of the apocalypse, but here's the other part of it. Think about this for me. Two guys, lightly recruited. The only reason they were where they were on Saturday was because of transfer portal.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
That's a world we live in.
It was unfortunate, but I'm really happy for Mendoza.
Yep. Me too.
And I saw some people. I heard on Dan Patrick this morning, some guy called in and said, "How did Haynes King get 2 first-place votes?" I'm like, I listened. You and I talked about Haynes King a lot during the season. That he got 2 first-place votes is maybe a little surprising, but that's whatever. Gunnar Stockton got a few. I was thinking about Ty. I had Ty Simpson in my mind for a while, not necessarily in the last couple of weeks, but I could see other guys being deserving. But you only get to vote for 3. And was saying, and I don't anybody take this the wrong way, especially if you're a Buckeyes fan. I like Julian Sayin, and I think he's going to have big days ahead of him.
Sure.
I'm still just maybe a college football observer who looks at what he did and says, "Boy, you're surrounded by so much." I'm not sure that you had as much to do individually with it as Diego or Fernando did for their teams.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. I think when you're surrounded by future pros at Ohio State and Vanderbilt and Indiana, there's not the same amount of future pros. I think Pavia and Mendoza have to do more heavy lifting than Sayin. I agree 100% on that.
Yeah.
All right, are you going to go take a nap, my man?
Yeah, I'm out, and I'll be out tomorrow back up to Durham for another treatment, but I will be back with you on Wednesday, sir. And I, as always, thank you, especially for your support and everybody else, but I'm hanging in there.
All right, man, you hang in there. Good luck with everything next couple of days, and we will speak with you on Wednesday, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, post-game show, we'll get back out and talk some more Carolina football next on the game. Post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out. We'll get Jay back with us on Wednesday. So he goes back to Raleigh for more treatments for his bladder cancer. And, of course, we always think about our buddy Jay as he goes through what he's dealing with. Also a sad day if you're a Gamecock fan, especially if you were watching Gamecock football in the early 90s. Steve Tannehill passing away this morning at the age of 52. Found a very interesting little, and it's about 3 minutes. And again, it's made for TV. So I'm trying to explain it the best I can. I believe ESPN doing a little piece on Steve Tannehill at South Carolina. You'll hear in this, and I'm going to play the whole thing for you. You'll hear Tannehill. You'll also hear his coach, Sparky Woods. You'll also hear from a teammate or two, a fan, just discussing how Steve Tannehill, as a freshman, has just popped on the scene and changed Gamecock football. Again, this was, I believe, an ESPN piece.
But, it's just part of my personality.
What is your trademark?
A lot of emotion, winning.
Emotion seen in his first ever start when the team was 0-5.
Comes in the huddle and he's screaming and yelling, like, let's go, we got to do this, and, we can move the ball on these people and things like that. That let me know he's real excited, and, you can just see it in his eyes that, he loves playing the game.
The biggest thing is it's hard to get him off the field after we score or something. Before the season's over, we're going to have a penalty, I guarantee it.
He does probably what we all wish we would do, and probably are just a little too stick in the mud, I guess.
Say what? A far-out freshman winning over the establishment?
People, I thought they would never would come around to Tannehill now. Man, they're around on his side 100%. I'm talking about people that you think would be so conservative, but man, they like Tannehill.
My name is Sparky. Most people have an impression of me when they meet me, and so I learned quickly that you get past that.
Everyone loves a character and a hero, and he's played that role pretty well. After he does something good, it's just fun to watch what's next. What is he going to do next?
Moves that only Tannehill can predict, like his plan to start as a true freshman. He ordered his license plates over the summer, and through that sorry September, he pestered his coach.
And I had always told him, I said, Coach, when I start, we're going to win. I guarantee it.
Tannehill's the first to say his teammates, the defense, the special teams, have more to do with winning than he does. His statistics are solid, not super, but stats, like looks, can be deceiving.
He does see the field. He's very bright, and he makes decisions on the run, and he has a great sense of timing and anticipation. Those are all things that you can't, weigh and measure.
Weights and measurements, standards and norms don't explain Tannehill, whose surprisingly simple essence is defined by a dozen words.
Appearance.
Doesn't matter.
Athletics.
Winning.
Quarterback.
Leadership.
Winning.
Most important thing.
There's a little feature ESPN did with about Steve Tannehill back his freshman year in 1992, and they were just seeing the end of the piece here. It's showing his hair. Lee Corso, Craig James was doing the show with Lee Corso at that time. That's how long ago this was, 1992. So just a little insight to the phenomenon that was Steve Tannehill his freshman year at South Carolina. Again, we will hear from you at 803-404-6100. We'll hit some text on the Firehouse subtext line here in just a little bit. All right, fast forward to current day South Carolina. Lenora Sellers, it looks like everything points to Sellers coming back for his junior year. I thought he'd go. I really did. I thought he would get the intel or maybe wait for the process to play out a little bit more and get the intel that he would like to hear, that he would be a first-round pick no matter where in the first round, and that Sellers would go in the draft because, again, if you're a first-round pick, to me, you get the 5-year guaranteed rookie deal, which is more money than you can get through NIL. So, I thought he would go. Now, he didn't go as far in this process as I thought, and my guess is he got some information, and then, him and the family and decision makers and everyone got together, and South Carolina talked about their NIL offer to Lenoris. The idea of Kendall Browse being hired as the offensive coordinator, had to be a positive, especially with Briles, and I'll play the cut here in a second about building the offense around the quarterback and it being such a quarterback-friendly offense. Maybe Lenoris and, his circle want to come back, play in a really good system that we could shine in, rebuild our draft stock to get it, top 10, have a heck of a lot better year than we all had in 2025, leave on a better note, and, put myself in a better draft position, and make good money off the NIL. That could be the whole thing that took him in the direction of coming back. But it's going to be fun if this does get finished, and it sounds like it will, then it's going to be fun to watch Lenoir Sellers play in a Kendall Briles offense. And Briles, in case you missed this cut, Briles was asked, about the offense. And here's what Kendall Briles said about building the offense around Lenoir Sellers.
No, not within the last couple of weeks. Once it got where we knew this thing was pretty much done, then had an opportunity to speak with him on the phone. But what was the second part of your question? How would he fit in this offense? It's really more the offense fitting around him. I mean, he's a quarterback. He's touching the ball every single snap. I'm not going to go out there and ask him to do something he's not great at. So we're going to build the offense around him and the rest of the personnel and do the things that he's really good at. And so we want him to be comfortable. Like I said, he's out there with people, running full speed at him, probably in a bad attitude and trying to get after him. So we're going to do the things that he feels really comfortable with, and I'm excited to work with him. Seems like a great kid.
There's Kendall Briles talking about Lenoir Sellers. And then Briles did add this, although this was kind of interesting, about his thoughts on coming in and being the offensive coordinator at South Carolina.
I would just say that I'm incredibly grateful for all the support, man. It's been incredible. Stan talked about it, or Coach Clements actually talked about it when we got here yesterday. Just the welcome from the entire organization was just incredible. I really haven't been on my phone and been on social media much at all, but I would say just thank you so much and get ready. It's going to be fun.
And that's what we're hoping for, especially if you get your quarterback back, which seems like it's going to happen. I think Nick Harbor will come back. Offensively, you've got weapons. You got a lot of young receivers. I like the talent in the backfield with Howell and Fuller. And if you want to add a veteran running back in the portal, or maybe you got somebody else up your sleeve, so to speak, whatever the case at running back. But I do like the talent of Howell and Fuller. And then, like I said, a lot of young wide receivers like a Donovan Murphy, Brian Rowe, Jaden Sellers. All of them at some point in the season showed something that could make you excited. And it goes with Harbor, who felt like he took a step on the next level. There's still a lot of room to grow for Nick Harbor, but you started to see it last year. The big plays down the field, using the speed and the athleticism. You threw it to him, he caught it. Now, does he look? He's getting more comfortable. Does he look super natural, like he's been playing wide receiver his whole life? No, but does he seem like he's getting more comfortable? Yeah. Dude never played wide receiver till he got to South Carolina. Played tight end and edge pass rusher. But it looks like that's really trending in the right direction with Nick Harbor. Offensive line, if the offensive line doesn't get fixed, obviously nothing else matters. But you feel better and more hopeful. Kendall Briles bringing his guy with him, Coach Clem, who he's known since he was in middle school, who knows how the offensive line has to play, perform, execute, and block in the Kendall Briles offensive system. That's nothing but a good thing. I will get to some texts about the passing of Steve Tannehill next on the post-game show on The Game. CHW Cabinetry. If you need cabinets in your home, inside, outside, wherever, pick a spot. I want them in my treehouse, Tara. Sure, why not? Star and her gang at CHW Cabinetry, no matter what you need, they will hook you up. You just call 803-520-6837. They're in Lexington. They're local. 803-520-6837. You call. You set an appointment. Go and just talk to them what you're looking to do. Where you need the cabinets, what style, how much money you can spend. And they will sit down, talk with you, and they'll make this happen, make you happy. And during the whole process, you will get photorealistic renderings. This is important. From beginning to end, you get to see the job layout right in front of you. Very important customer service, the rule at CHW Cabinetry. Again, 803-520-6837. Give them a ring. Let's get this cabinet thing done. Our first look at the traffic this afternoon. A few accidents. Laurel Street at Main Street in downtown Columbia. Also 2 Notch at Taylor Street. And 2 Notch also. It refreshed. Okay, now that one's gone. Anyway, but 2 Notch at Taylor Street. Also US 76 between Hiller Road and Murray Linder Road and Williston Road, both northbound and southbound near Silver Bluff Road as well. Weather for tonight, again, lows dropping into the 20s. No chance of any kind of precipitation. That's the good news. When you wake up in the morning, let's say 7 a.m., it's 24 degrees. We'll get to 51 before it's all said and done with some sunshine tomorrow. Come back, check the text line talking about Steve Tannehill, Gamecock quarterback. That's next on the postgame show. All right, off to the Firehouse subtext line, 803-404-6100. Text about Steve Tannehill. And if you have not heard, Tannehill sadly passing away this morning at the age of 52. Texter Chris, not only was Steve Tannehill a great QB, but he was a great guy. We had a philosophy class together. He sat beside me, would always ask me about how things were going. He knew my name, spoke to me out of class as well. He will be missed. And that, again, is Chris in Elgin. Another texter, unnamed. I'm sorry this is my second time, but where the legacy of Steve Tannehill started has been discussed. It started earlier when then 21-6 Mississippi State. It started in Tuscaloosa against Bama, which is who he chose us over. We were down 38-0 at the half, 30s rain, miserable, wondering how much worse it could get. Tannehill got the call for the second half, played probably second string, but still good. Actually played them 10-7 in the second half, and that was the start of the legacy, in my opinion. Another texter, Steve Tannehill definitely was the Happy Gilmore of college football. That's from John. He's a great guy and a great coach. I wish the university would have done more to wrap their arms around him. While cocky in the field, he was not cocky off of it. He understood the platform the university gave him. However, I think he was disappointed with the way the university didn't reach out to him. He was one of our greatest and coached in South Carolina, hardly got invited to the sidelines. He earned their respect for his play on the field, so he wasn't going to beg them. We missed a huge opportunity with Steve Tannehill. And, I think Jamie Bradford and Bill Gunner were talking about that on the halftime show when Jamie was on with Bill and Tyler, talking about Steve Tannehill and some of the other former Gamecocks and how much the university, their arms wrap around those guys. And I think Bill will get into that more, I think, tomorrow as well. But I've always looked at it this way. You always invite the greats back. And great means something to everybody, right? There are guys who are truly great. They put up great numbers, great performances, whatever, right? But also there are guys who are just great because they were maybe good or solid, but they were just memorable. For whatever the reason, it could have been their personality, could have been they made a big play in a big game that led to a Gamecock victory or a win for their team. Or they had a great personality, or they did great things off the field as well. But some guys, are different, or looked at a different way to be memorable. But Steve Tannehill did it on the field, great personality. Like I said, today I was just sitting there watching some old Steve Tannehill highlights, and you just see the enthusiasm and the joy for the game. And that's the kind of thing, especially at that time, and Jay discussed it. Jay was a few years older than Tannehill, and Jay talked about just what Steve Tannehill did for the entire football program and the university. So it's sad. Steve Tannehill, again, passing away this morning at the age of 52. If you want to keep hitting us up, feel free on the AAA Heating and Air text line or the Firehouse sub-text line or the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. So feel free with your memories of Steve Tannehill and your thoughts. All right, so we met. Well, we didn't really in person meet, but through YouTube and a press conference, we got to meet the new coaches. Kendall Browse, the offensive coordinator, Randy Clements, the offensive line coach, and Stan Drayton, the running back coach. Clements is important here. Old Coach Clem is what he's called. Nothing else is going to matter if Coach Clem doesn't get this offensive line right. And in case you missed it on Friday, here's Coach Clem's opening statement at the presser.
Morning, everybody. Everybody calls me Clem. So if you say Randy, I'll probably look around like somebody else is here. But echoing what Kendall said, just super excited about being here. So grateful. I've never felt more welcome at a place when I walked in here. The welcome that Coach Beamer and his staff gave us is just second to none, and very appreciative of that. And excited about the journey. It's going to be a grind. It's going to be a day-by-day process, and we're going to work every day as hard as we can to make this this program one of the most competitive in the toughest league in America. And I can't wait for the opportunity. But I'm so blessed to have this lady right there, Miss Polly, and that's what her students always called her. But she's kept me on the right path for a long time. But can't wait to get started. Thank y'all.
That simple, that easy, right there. And if you saw Coach Clem, first of all, the name Coach Clem screams offensive line coach, right? It just does. Coach Clem. Yeah, Coach Clem doesn't come off as the offensive coordinator. Comes off as the offensive line coach. Tobacco or food stains on his shirt. The same shirt he wears every day. The hat with the little sweat stains around it. Yeah. And if you look at Coach Clem, he looks like an offensive line coach and a former strength and conditioning coach and all that good stuff. But what it comes down to is, can Coach Clem coach up the offensive line to do what needs to be done so the Gamecocks can run Kendall Briles' offense? That's really what this comes down to. And the good news is about it is, again, Randy Clements and Kendall Briles have known each other since Kendall Briles was 12 or something like that. So Randy Clements, he knows what's up when it comes to what his offensive line needs to do to run this offense. Just got to get it done. And we've had the conversation, no job safe. No job is safe on that offensive line. Not Shed Surratt, not Josiah Thompson, not Trav Ball, no one. No one's job is safe at this point after what happened last year. It's a fight, it's a battle. Every position's open. See who wants it. And I hope that with a new offensive line coach, maybe the things with Josiah Thompson, whatever's going on with Josiah Thompson, can get fixed. The technique issues, whatever it is, that had Josiah Thompson go backwards last year. Hopefully that gets fixed and Josiah Thompson can get back to where everyone thought he would be in his junior year. But, again, Thompson's a 4-star, 5-star in some places. Surratt's a 4-star. Ball was a 3 or 4-star. Tree Babalati, who just kind of disappeared at the end of the year. Tree was a 4-star. And you had a lot of guys who have talent, just for whatever reason they weren't developing. Well, Coach Clem can put a stop to that. Start getting them going in the right direction. Also, Shane, here's his comments on Coach Clem taking over this offensive line at South Carolina.
Did not know him at all. As I made some phone calls, I called Mac Brown, who he worked for at the University of North Carolina most recently, and asked Coach Brown about him. And you guys know the respect I have for Coach Brown, and the feedback he gave me on Coach Clements was all I needed to hear. And then as I met with him and got to know him a little bit better, you realize why Coach Brown is saying the things that he said. Proven, again, great leadership, great person, proven offensive line coach at the highest level, done it in multiple conferences, done a great job of recruiting and developing players, and is really, really excited about this opportunity to be in Columbia. So we're super excited to welcome Coach Clements and his wife, Polly, here to Columbia. And with that, let me introduce to you Randy Clements.
And there you go. There's Shane introducing Clements. You heard his opening statement. And like I said, just Coach Clem, get the offensive line right. It's the key to everything on offense. All right, post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us. We will continue on hearing from the coaching staff. We didn't really focus much on Stan Drayton on Friday. Let's talk about the new running backs coach. That is next here on the post-game show on The Game. Time to open the vault, sponsored by our buds at Purple Wave Auction. You're on the post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us. Today, in the world of sports, which would be December 15th. Interesting day. Many things to choose from. One thing happened back in 1974. Oakland's starting pitcher, Jim Catfish Hunter, is ruled a free agent by an arbitrator when A's owner Charles O. Finley fails to live up to the terms of Hunter's contract. Finley was cheap. He was always looking for a way to get over on players. And this time it came back to bite him. And Jim Catfish Hunter was ruled a free agent on this day in 1974. Of course, the free agency doors opened wide, but was at 76, the first free agent class. Reggie Jackson was the big fish back in 76. A lot of people got mad over this. How dare these players can go get their market value? My God, this is wrong. Because, again, before that, players had no juice, no power, no leverage. You took what you got from, your team. And the only way you could move from another city is if your squad traded you or they let you go. I'll never forget a story, and this goes way back. In the 60s, Frank Robinson, who was, coming off a Triple Crown year and MVP season, Orioles won the World Series in 1966. And Frank went to meet with the GM and basically went in and sat down to, negotiate a contract. And basically they were like, okay, we'll give you like $5,000 more than last year. Yeah, but that was like the MVP and won a Triple Crown and stuff, and we won the World Series. Yeah, well, here's what we're going to give you. You get a little bit more than last year. And you had no recourse. So, again, that was an extreme that was crap. And it went away. But what I think is always interesting is for some reason, there's a certain amount of fans, and don't get me wrong, I used to be like this when I was a crazy fan before rehab and therapy and incense. For some reason, I got mad at players when I was young for leaving. You have no loyalty. I was young, stupid, naive. And look, does loyalty matter in life? Sure it does. But why should you stay loyal to a team that's not giving you fair market value for your services? Just like you would get in a lot of other businesses. As I got older, I got it. It was like, look, you're free to move around and, take whatever job you want, whatever gig. If money's the most important thing, then go to the highest bidder. If winning's the most important thing, go to the best team. Whatever. But when I was younger, man, for some reason, as I got older, I'm like, why do we, as regular folk, get so mad at these professional athletes when they go get a ton of money? I know it's playing a kid's game. I say it all the time. I just want to see those guys appreciate the fact that they've hit the genetic lottery. But, as I got older, I'm like, look, if I were in their shoes, I'd do the same thing. I would want my fair market value for my work. I want that now. Just their fair market value is a hell of a lot more than radio's fair market value. I wish. So as I got older, I became more on the side of the worker over the man. But for some reason, when it comes to professional athletes, we're always more on the side of the man. Unless that free agent signs with our favorite team, then we love him, right? Oh, yeah. But when that guy leaves our team, he wasn't loyal. He sucked. He didn't bleed our colors. He was the reason we came up short. That's just kind of the way it goes. But yeah, the more I thought about it as I moved along in life, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm just a worker grunt. They're like highly paid worker grunts. Why should I should be rooting for those guys to get as much money off the owner as possible. Just like I want to in my job. So on this day, a lot of this started in 1974 when Catfish Hunter was deemed a free agent because the A's were not living up to his contract. So there's your vault. on this day, December 15th. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. I got to shovel snow. I was so excited. I went north, hung out with the family, and it snowed. And I'm like, I really don't miss the snow. I don't. No, don't miss it at all. Oh, and it was 17 degrees. And I always like when they tell you what it feels like on your phone. 17 degrees, it feels like 11. Great. Yeah, it was fun. Uh-huh. So I hope you had a better weekend than that. It's great when you lose all feeling in your hands. That's always my favorite part. And you start putting your hand inside the glove out of the fingers like it's going to make you warmer, and it's just kind of a dumb move. 5 o'clock news sponsored by Pals Integrated Media is next here on the postgame show with Terry Ford as we go one more hour on the game. Get you caught up on the traffic. A few accidents. Highway 302 near Ramblin' Road in Lexington. Another accident in Lexington, South Lake Drive near Highway 602. And Williston Road, both northbound and southbound near Silver Bluff Road. Accident reported there as well. And we have our typical construction. I-20 between I-26, exit 64 and 65, Broad River Road. I-26 between Bush River Road and Old Sandy Run Road and I-126 between Hugie and I-26. Weather for tonight, cold, lows in the 20s. It'll be 24 degrees tomorrow morning if you're getting up around 7. Should get up to like 51 degrees tomorrow, though, and some sunshine before it's all said and done. We'll come back. 5 o'clock news is next, sponsored by Integrated Media on the Game. All right, time to check the 5 o'clock news, sponsored by our buds at Integrated Media. Of course, on Friday, Shane Beamer introduced his new offensive coaches to the media. Offensive coordinator Kendall Briles, or running back coach Stan Drayton, and offensive line coach Clem, Randy Clemens. Shane was also asked about player decisions, and this will lead to something else we'll talk about in a minute. And here's what Shane had to say about his players making decisions on their future.
Just to be completely honest, like ASAP, because as we've told them, I want you here, but we can't sit around and wait forever. That there's a portal that's getting ready to open up. Let's be real, there's a financial aspect of it where if you're not coming back, well, that's a financial aspect that is now available to others to either bring in or to keep in our own program that I want to reward. So it's just part of it. So yeah, the longer this thing goes, it's not good. So ASAP. Have I put a hard deadline on anyone? No, but it's kind of one of those that right now, Jack, like if you want to be here, great. If not, cool. But I'm on the 2026 and doing everything that I have to do to get ready for 2026. And the Clemson game was almost 3 weeks ago. Like we've moved on and we're on the 26th, and you're either with us or you're not.
That's Shane Beamer talking to Jack Veltri after the presser. They just what they call this media gaggle, where you get to go and walk up and talk to the different folks at the presser, kind of get a little more one-on-one, maybe ask a few extra questions because you don't want to hog the entire presser from others who want to ask questions. So that was Shane's answer to Jack Veltri, co-host of The Extra Point here on the Game and also at Gamecock Central. And yeah, I mean, decisions have to be made. And I'm sure Shane didn't look at him and go like my dad would say, "Hey, boy, bleeper, get off the pot." That was my dad's cool saying. He invented it. But, you have to make decisions, whether it's, if you're staying, great. We got to figure out, we got, money we need to spend on players, and we've got to figure out how we're going to budget and what we're going to do. And, over the weekend, it feels like Lenore Sellers is close to coming back to South Carolina for his junior season. That's great, wonderful. But again, you got to know because you got to spend the money. And I'm sure Lenore is going to be very well compensated to come back, just like Dylan Stewart will be very well compensated to come back and play edge pass rusher at South Carolina. And other players will be compensated pretty well. And you got the portal. You're going to have to obviously compensate players to come in through the portal. And you know who you're going to lose because you're going to have to fortify your losses through the portal. So all of it makes sense. All right, also over the weekend, Carolina basketball going at it. The women, some injury issues, some depth stuff. But Joyce Edwards was excellent. South Carolina wins by 40 over Penn State. Here is Dawn talking about improving the bench offense, because Dawn's always looking for reasons to get this thing going.
Just improving. I mean, we want to just improve. What that looks like for us is taking good shots, okay? I mean, and that's basically it. It's not, for them to get comfortable. I don't think all of them are comfortable. And that's okay too. They don't have to be comfortable. I think when you're comfortable, you probably lend yourself to doing stuff that you're not supposed to do. So there's a little bit of fear of not doing the right thing, which keeps us a little more disciplined. But I like what we're bringing to the table. I don't think, I think Maddie's starting to get back into the swing of things. Isla is holding serve. I think we can get a little bit more out of Adele and Miriam. So we're just continuing to work with that. And I think it's good that Medina didn't play, and they can build some confidence. Definitely defensively, offensively, we'll get them going a little bit.
8 players at least played 15 minutes in the 40-point win over Penn State, 95-55. Joyce Edwards led the way with 29 on 20 shots. Also 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 6 steals, 4 blocks. That's a night. That's stuff in a stat sheet. Also, Latson went for 18. Not the most efficient shooting night for Latson, only 5 of 14 from the floor, 1 of 7 from 3. But Latson dished out 8 assists. Edwards had 5. So those two combined for 13 dimes in this basketball game. South Carolina struggled from 3, only going 6 of 21, but did shoot 51% overall. So you got them inside the arc. They crushed it. I believe 31 of 52 inside the arc. Tessa Johnson added 15 as well. 1, 2, 4 Gamecocks in double figures in the easy 40-point win over Penn State. Now the men went at it. It was kind of a slog against Citadel. If you look at Ken Palm rankings for Citadel, I'm not going to lie, you have to go way, way, way down. Mississippi Valley State, Coppin State, South Carolina State, Morgan State. You're saying, who are they, Terry? Those are the 4 schools with Ken Palm rankings worse than Citadel. That's it. Citadel was number 361st in the country in efficiency. And South Carolina had a fight on their hands for a while before they finally pulled away with a win. Lamont Paris just talked about how this performance, this effort, just not good enough.
We were not good. The overall feel of the game was not good by my estimation, but we were good enough. And at the end of the day, ultimately, that's what matters the most. But I was disappointed on a lot of fronts just with how we came out to start the game. And it continued throughout the game. And the team that should win does not always win, and this was a case of it. This was the closest 16-point win. Let's not have anyone be fooled by the fact that the final margin was 16. I hope that there's nobody looking at it and think that maybe it was 25 at one point and then it ended up 16. This was the closest 16-point game that I think I've ever been around, and credit to them. They've got a really good coach. He had them ready to play. Our guys were not ready to play. For whatever reason, we had multitude of guys that just were not ready to play. And there's all the excuses in the book. We final exams, and they jumped on a bus and drove up here and then played the game. So, sorry if I don't have a lot of sympathy for that, but we just weren't ready to play. And they're tough. These guys, they live a different life than our guys. They do. They wake up significantly earlier. They do things that they probably don't want to do, but find some real reward in doing it, some real pride in doing it, things our guys, you could never get them to do.
It's very interesting. Lamont Paris right there. He just basically, without doing it, he's kind of questioning his team's grit, right? Their want to. Look, it was not a good performance. I mean, you won by 16, but it was not a good performance. Pulled away later on in the second half, and a win's a win, man. It is, and you take them and move forward. This team is scuffling from 3. They take a lot of threes. They're only making 31% from 3, which is below average. They shoot it much better from 2, but they've been kind of living on taking a good amount of threes. And look, good shots are good shots. But if you aren't making a certain shot and you're taking a lot of them, that you got to sit back at some point and say, how efficient is this? Right now, South Carolina is 264th in the country in three-point shooting percentage at 31.1%. The average is 33.4, so below average by 2% roughly. And South Carolina, 33% of their points are off of three-pointers. But you're only making 31%, which says you're taking a ton of them. Two-pointers, you're ready. You're number 30 in the country in two-point scoring. 59.2% is what you're hitting. That's your field goal percentage from inside the three-point arc. But right now, you're not taking a ton of twos. But you're making them. Three-point shots not falling again, 264th in the country. Now, again, this team made threes earlier in the year. They've just gone through an awful funk recently shooting the three ball. But at some point, you're going to have to sit back if you're Lamont and go, okay, we're taking a lot of threes. We're not making them. Maybe we need to tweak some stuff. But 71-55, South Carolina gets the win over Citadel. Up next tomorrow night right here versus Clemson. 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip right here on the game in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. Andy Reid, head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, says Patrick Mahomes did suffer a season-ending ACL tear in his left knee. Reid shared that MRI scan Sunday night and said that Mahomes didn't have any major damage to other ligaments. So, yep, Mahomes is out for the year. Kansas City's out of the playoffs. Travis Kelce looks very old and slow, and they don't have a Tyreek Hill anymore to take the top off of defense or offensive line. The last year and a half-ish has not been consistent. Running game, Kansas City's never lived off of it, but it's just not there. The defense hasn't been as opportunistic as last year. Basically, the Chiefs last year won a ton of one-score games. This year, they can't win a one-score game to save their life. And for right now, the Chiefs are going to say, you know what, we've been to the playoffs a lot. We're going to sit this one out. Thanks, though. We'll see if they get back, because who knows when Mahomes comes back from the torn ACL. Maybe it'll be like Adrian Peterson and do his own surgery after pouring whiskey on it and just start cutting into it. Like Sylvester Stallone in the first Rambo movie. But we don't know how long Mahomes is out. Kelce looks like he'll go retire and become Mr. Taylor Swift. Again, there's no Tyreek Hill. You got a bunch of wide receivers with some talent. They just can't put it all together for whatever reason. Micah Parsons tears his ACL. I mean, are the Packers still good? Yeah, but Parsons took them to another level on defense. Led the NFL in pressures, had more pressures than I think the rest of the Packers almost combined. Green Bay's also had some other injuries as well. It's a shame because the Packers, that roster could have competed for a Super Bowl, and right now it's a legitimate question. Can they hold on to that playoff spot? So, Micah Parsons out for the year with a torn ACL as well. Sad day for Gamecock fans. We've talked about it on and off on the show today. Steve Tannehill, legendary Gamecock quarterback from the early 90s, passed away this morning at the age of 52. Still holds a bunch of records at South Carolina. And just that magical run under Tannehill, especially his freshman year. The team is, 0-5. Tannehill comes in, and then the squad goes 5-1. He brings all this enthusiasm, excitement. What's that word you hear every now and then? Moxie. Yeah, that word I never use. Tannehill was a thing. We talked with Jay about it, earlier in the show. Jay was there for the whole Steve Tannehill experience. He was like, it was a thing. Perfect guy at the perfect time. And a lot of people today on this radio station talk about how much Steve Tannehill will be missed, passing away at the age of 52 earlier this morning. Come back, crack open the Gamecock notebook, take a look at TCU last year and a little bit about Arkansas as we continue to look back at what Kendall Briles has done as an offensive coordinator in the past. That's coming next on the Gamecock Notebook here on the postgame show with Terry Ford. Appreciate you hanging on the game. All right, time to open up the Gamecock notebook and just kind of concentrating on a few numbers, first of all. Kendall Briles coming in as a new offensive coordinator. Last year was an interesting season for TCU. Of course, Kendall Briles, the OC with the Horned Frogs. And when you look at the season, now look, points per game isn't just an offensive stat, it's a team stat. But starting off with just points per game, and you remember TCU was the first squad that Bill Belichick's Tar Heels played, and the Horned Frogs just boat raced North Carolina. Remember, the Tar Heels scored first, and after that, TCU just rolled them. At what point, it was like 41-7. Ended up being 48-14. And in that game, I mean, Josh Hoover was excellent, 27-36 for 284 yards, a couple touchdowns to throw a pick. Kavorian Barnes ran for 113 yards on 11 carries. TCU threw for 284, ran for 258. You'll take that every day as a Gamecock fan. Life was good. Then TCU rolls Abilene Christian, scoring 42. They beat SMU, scoring 35. They lost Arizona State, 27-24. Put 35 up on Colorado in a win. Lost to Kansas State, scoring 28, but they gave up 41. Beat Baylor in a shootout, 42-36. So, I mean, the points were there. TCU hadn't scored under 24 the entire season. It posted over 40 three different times. In the 30s, two other occasions. And then the end of the season was weird. The last 5 games, TCU beat West Virginia only 23-17. Lost to Iowa State 20-17 at home. Got kicked in the lower region by BYU 44-13. Beat Houston in a very low-scoring game 17-14, and then got it back going, scoring 45 in a win over Cincinnati. Before their last 5 games, TCU didn't score over 23 points. And real quick, Josh Hoover was in the, top 5 or 6 in the nation in passing yards. TCU, 8th in the country in passing yards per game at 293. Over 8 yards an attempt. And that's good. I mean, the negative was Hoover kind of got sloppy with the rock, TCU as a team ended up with 14 interceptions thrown. Running the ball was an issue. 93rd in the country, averaging under 4 yards a carry. And so that was a struggle. It's a weird offensive year as TCU was kind of all over the place. And when we talked to folks who covered the team, they said, look, part of it was a lack of consistency with their offensive line. But Kendall Briles, the resume is good. Hoover does not have the skill set Lenoir Sellers. They're different quarterbacks. Hoover more of a drop-back pocket guy, Lenoir's a dual-threat guy. When you go back to 2022, you look at that Arkansas offense, we've told you how good it was, but we'll slap some numbers on it. When you look at throwing the football, KJ Jefferson at Arkansas under Kendall Briles was 5th in the conference in completion percentage and yards per attempt 3rd in the conference. Passing efficiency 2nd behind some dude named Hendon Hooker. When it came to running the ball, Rocket Sanders was 2nd in the conference in rushing yards behind Quinshaw Junkins. 1st in yards per attempt, 2nd in total yards from scrimmage. Or 1st, I should say, in total yards from scrimmage. In the passing game, Jaden Hazelwood had 59 catches. That was top 10 in the conference. And obviously, Treylon Burks was the big play guy down the field for Arkansas. So that offense was cooking with a dual-threat quarterback. And by the way, KJ Jefferson, when it came to running the football, also was solid in that regard as well. So it was that offense was very explosive. So it gives you an idea with a dual threat quarterback, building everything around that quarterback's skills, how Arkansas kicked it. But again, a lot of this is about the offensive line. Arkansas's offensive line held their own that year. Remember, the head coach was an offensive line coach back in the day, Uncle Sam. So, again, if you get this offensive line right and they can be solid, you can see good things for this offense. All right, DJ Lagway, we'll talk more about this in the drive around the SEC. DJ Lagway, some other quarterbacks have hit the transfer portal. We'll talk about that coming up in our drive around the SEC. Also in our Gamecock notebook, getting back to some of our sound, Dawn Staley is the women won by 40. I want to get one more Dawn cut in here. Talking about the transition game and winning in transition at South Carolina.
Well, I would say it was probably a product of our defense, and rebounding. We gave up 22 offensive rebounds. So, a lot of times they were just getting their own rebound and making us play a little bit longer. So I think we got rebounds and we pushed and we saw people up the floor.
So yeah, getting beat on the glass and giving up offensive rebounds, obviously that's got to get fixed. That can bite you at some point. Huge. Transition, South Carolina can run. But Dawn's going to want better offensive rebounding and obviously even better defense. All right, switching back one more time to a Gamecock football. We promised this. I want to get it before we get out of here. Stan Drayton, the new running backs coach. Here's what Shane Beamer had to say when he introduced his old friend, Coach Drayton.
Stan's awesome. Left Mississippi State, and then what really, saw him during that year in Starkville, but then how he's grown as a coach and the people that he's been around. The University of Florida, Ohio State University, the University of Texas. I went and visited the Chicago Bears when he was coaching running backs with the Chicago Bears, and he was up there with Alshon Jeffrey. And then last season at Penn State, been a head coach at Temple. So much that I'll be able to lean on him for, somebody that I trust and respect greatly, and being able to get him here to be a part of the program is a absolute grand slam for us. So our assistant head coach for offense and running backs coach, Stan Drayton.
I wonder, because he, assistant head offensive coach, I think is what Shane just said. And I wonder how much to a true, look, Shane's got veterans on the staff, Sean Elliott, guys like that who have been head coaches, been coaches for a long time. Now you add Drayton, another guy who was a head coach. Yeah, Temple didn't go well, 9-25 in 2022, 23, and 24. Then landed at Penn State as a running backs coach, and now is at South Carolina. He's been a running backs coach everywhere. That little 1 year, 2 year deal in the NFL with the Bears. Also with the Packers back in 01 to 03, and just around college football all over the place. A very experienced coach. You've got Joe DeCamillis, who's very experienced. Like I said, Sean Elliott's been around a long time. You got some coaches who have been head coaches, now are settling in, veteran voices. Sort of like a Pete Limbo was for Shane. So we'll see Stan Drayton, not just, the running back coach and a really good recruiter, but a guy another veteran voice that Shane can lean on. So there you hear about Stan Drayton. And the running back room is thin. Coach Blackwell didn't get it done on the recruiting trail for a couple straight years. So hopefully Stan Drayton can get out there and pull something good from the high schools. All right, that was our Gamecock Notebook. We'll come back, drive around the SEC. DJ Lagway has hit the portal at Florida. There's some teams, according to ESPN, that should look at DJ Lagway. We'll get to that next. It is the post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us. We go till 6 on the game. We talk a ton about the Men's Clinic of South Carolina on this show. Dr. Dan and his staff are here to help you because, look, guys, we get older and it stinks. Can we be real? It does. Whether you don't sleep as good as you used to, you can't remember stuff. You know, what you used to be able to bench press, remember that? Yeah. Can't do that anymore unless you want to, crush your sternum. Also, it's just the drive in life isn't as intense as it used to be. You don't remember things like you used to. All this could just be low testosterone, or maybe there's some other issues that they can help you out with at the Men's Clinic. Call 803-875-MENS. Set up the free consultation, tell them your story, and they will take it from there to help you get you back to being like you again. And the process will be personalized to you to help you in the whole deal. 803-875-MENS, the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Get you a check on the traffic on your ride home. We had a few accidents to get to earlier. And we have a couple left. Salem Church Road at Dreher Shoals Road in Richland. In Lexington, South Lake Drive near Highway 602. And also in Lexington, Highway 302 at Ramblin' Road as well. Weather in the 20s overnight. 24 degrees when you wake up in the morning, somewhere around there. Then 51 will be the high tomorrow. No chance of any kind of precipitation. We'll come back and drive around the SEC. DJ Lagway's in the portal. Where are some landing spots? ESPN throws out 5, and we'll go over those next here on the post-game show on the game. All right, time to get our drive around the SEC. We'll start in Gainesville, Florida. Quarterback DJ Lagway announced he plans to enter the transfer portal, which obviously opens on January 2nd. Lagway, his freshman year, was all good. Remember, he was the reason Florida was winning down the stretch, saving Billy Napier's job. This year was going to be great. Florida was going to take off with Lagway and Napier, and it went and it made that noise. It smelled. Lagway was a top 10 overall recruit coming out of high school a couple years ago. But it just did not happen. Last season, Lagway was injured. He was frustrated. Got into this really bad habit of completing passes to the other team's defensive backs. So now Lagway will roll off into the portal. And if you looked at his numbers real quick last year, a lot of struggles. 18 turnover-worthy plays, which was 6 more than his big-time throws. Never a good sign. 14 interceptions on the season. Only 16 touchdown passes. Struggled against pressure, only hitting 51, a little bit over 51% of his passes versus pressure. His freshman year, he was a good deep ball thrower. That regressed. And he really struggled throwing in that sweet spot we talk about in the passing offense, that 10 to 19-yard range, hitting under 50% of his throws. So just a really tough go for DJ Lagway. But he's got skills. He's got a lot of talent. And 5 schools ESPN threw out there. Max Olson. Baylor is one. Lagway's dad, Derek, played running back for the Bears in the late 90s. Lagway would go back home to Texas, where he's from. Baylor will need a quarterback. They got a good offensive coordinator in Jake Spavital, who helped work with Sawyer Robertson, who last year threw for almost 3,700 yards and 31 TDs. So Lagway would also be a really good get. Dave Aranda, it just hasn't happened at Baylor for Aranda. Remember, he won the Big 12 early in his tenure, but since then they've been Aranda saved his job 2 years ago, but now after last season might be coaching for his gig again. If you could find a way to pull in DJ Lagway, that would be a huge get. This one, we're going to hear every quarterback that's worth a bleep. We're going to hear Lane Kiffin's chasing. Because Kiffin right now is trying to hunt down a quarterback. You know, could it be DJ Lagway, Sam Levitt, Dylan Raiola, even though Dylan Raiola is rumored to be locked up to Miami? We'll see if that's true. Kiffin, though, I mean, again, if I'm look, forget what I feel about Lane Kiffin for turning his back on Ole Miss and sneaking away like a quitter. Forget that for a minute. I can be objective enough to say Lane Kiffin, obviously a high-level offensive mind, a really good head coach, and a hell of a developer of quarterbacks. If I'm DJ Lagway, that wouldn't be a bad place to go. And LSU will spend the money. Clemson's another one that needs a quarterback. But would Dabo go this route? Cade Klubnik is gone. You've got Christopher Vizina and Chris Denson on the roster. That doesn't make a lot of people tingly. If you're Dabo, do you, oh my God, go in the portal and go get a starting quarterback, a veteran? Because, yeah, you're going to lose some guys at the NFL draft, but Clemson still got talent. So we'll see what happens there. And could Clemson be a team to chase DJ Lagway? Miami. Again, we've heard about Dylan Raiola in Miami. We don't know how much of a done deal that is for real or not. Could it be DJ Lagway at Miami? Look, they do a good job. Carson Beck was a better quarterback this year than he was the year before at Georgia. At Miami, Cam Ward left there and became the first overall pick in the draft. So Miami wouldn't be a bad spot if you want to rehabilitate yourself as a quarterback and get back on the right track. And Miami's in the college football playoff this year. Then here's another one. TCU. If Josh Hoover hits the portal in January, TCU would need a quarterback. DJ Lagway, again, could come back home to Texas. But Hoover hasn't given any indication that he's leaning toward leaving. So we'll see what happens at TCU with the starting quarterback. But, I mean, honestly, out of these options, I would go to LSU. I'd go play for Lane. If I want to develop as a quarterback and get better and have a coach who might be able to put me in position to be a high NFL draft pick, I would go to LSU first out of this deal, Miami second. They've proven they can get quarterbacks right. And Coach Dykes at TCU, I mean, Hoover, he just started throwing a bunch of picks. But he had a lot of, I mean, remember what was it? Year before in 2024 coming out of there were a ton of teams chasing Hoover in the portal. And TCU had to pony up the dough to keep Hoover for 2025. But it'll be interesting where DJ Lagway does land before it's all said and done. But again, a guy with a ton of talent. Just got to stay healthy, quit throwing picks. Very simple. Drive around the SEC as we keep rolling here on the postgame show. In case you missed it, this guy named Mendoza won the Heisman. And here was part of Fernando Mendoza's Heisman speech.
This is an important one. I want every kid out there who feels overlooked, underestimated to know I was you. I was that kid too. I was in your shoes. The truth is, you don't need the most stars, hype, or rankings. You just need discipline, heart, and people who believe in you. And you need to believe in your own abilities. I hope this moment shows you that chasing your dreams are worth it, no matter how big or impossible they seem. God bless. Go Hoosiers. Thank you guys all.
Mendoza did a heck of a job. Heck of a job. With his Heisman Trophy speech. A lot of his teammates showed up in New York and they hung out together. It was a feel-good moment. Now, again, I figured Mendoza would win, but I'd have voted for Diego Pavia. Look, Indiana made the college football playoff last year. Did Mendoza make them better this year? He was part of, yes, the reason why they are now the number one seed. And they won the Big Ten. And they're undefeated. And they got huge wins over Ohio State and Oregon. They had that, by the tippy toes of their feet victory over Penn State. And they found a way to grind one out in Iowa when the Hawkeyes were trying to bore Indiana to death. So, yeah, I see why Mendoza won. And, again, I don't think, oh, my God, Diego Pavia was robbed. I just look at it this way. Indiana's culture was laid by Curt Cignetti. Indiana was a college football playoff team last year. Vanderbilt was 6-6 and jumped to 10-2. And remember, Diego Pavia is the difference. No, he doesn't play defense, doesn't play special teams, doesn't block for himself. He doesn't throw the ball to himself. But Diego Pavia set the tone for that football team like nobody else. Like nobody in the country did. So I'd have voted for Pavia. I just think no player in the country affected his team's success on and off the field than Diego Pavia. But how Pavia reacted to the loss on social media with the F the Heisman voters, F Indiana. You're a 25-year-old man, dude. Come on. Seriously? I don't want to hear about I got a chip on my shoulder. I've had to grind for everything I've ever gotten. Blah, 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 blah. I was so close to my dreams. I didn't handle it well. At least Diego Pavia apologized on social media. We can bat around the sincerity of it. Did AI write it? Did whatever. But it just wasn't a bad look. It was an awful look for Diego Pavia. And everybody that didn't vote for you because they didn't like your attitude or your personality, you gave them all the ammo to go like this. Yep, see? Glad I didn't vote for him. What the hell would his speech would have been like? Would him and his brothers just set up there and, I don't know, light joints? I mean, people were really turned off by Pavia's whole aura. And he gave them ammo. It just was not good. I mean, again, Pavia apologized on social media, but it was not a good look. But good for Fernando Mendoza. All right, we'll pop back in here. Jay versus the internet without Jay, unfortunately. That's next here on the post-game show. Do a little Jay versus the internet without Jay real quick. Dolphins Steelers tonight in Pittsburgh. Should be nice and cold, like really cold. The Dolphins are like 0-1 in cold weather. Pittsburgh is giving 3. I'll take the Steelers and the points at home, as the Dolphins just going to be. I mean, you want to talk about huddling by the heaters and the heated seats and getting those hot hands things. Miami's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be good. 19 degrees in Pittsburgh, according to AccuWeather, for kickoff. Yeah. The Dolphins players will be as blue as the uniforms. Pittsburgh should win and cover the 3. And I'll take the under. It's 42.5. I'll take the under in that weather. Absolutely. One other note from the NFL. Jaden Daniels, the Commanders quarterback, is being shut down by the team, which they should. It's done. It's over. Daniels had the ugly dislocated elbow. He's had some other injury issues all year. You shut him down. You move on to next year if you're the Commanders. But now the thing is, Dan Quinn, they shocked the world last year by going to the NFC Championship game. This year, they shocked the world by being awful. And there's a lot of expectation in D.C. that was, and the Commanders go 4-10. So is Dan Quinn going to be on some kind of a hot seat next year in D.C.? It's a new ownership group. A lot more patient crew. We'll see what happens there. I think you obviously give Dan Quinn another year. You look at this year, maybe you chalk it up. I mean, Daniels, year 2 for a starting quarterback sometime can be trouble. C.J. Stroud struggled in year 2. It happens. It happens. So we'll see where it goes for the Commanders. They shut down Jaden Daniels. Patrick Mahomes will make a full recovery, according to Dr. Andy Reid, by the way. Andy Reid said that Mahomes avoided major damage, but did tear his ACL, be out for the year. We'll see what kind of recovery. Again, Adrian Peterson ruined this for everybody because Peterson tore his ACL and was back playing in 8 minutes? I mean, it was crazy. So we'll see when Patrick Mahomes can get back in 2026 because it's late in the year. And, the timetable says, same thing with Micah Parsons in Green Bay, who tore his ACL. When you tear your ACL this late in the year, what does that mean in the big picture for 2026? So we'll see where the deal is. And you got to wait till the swelling goes down before you can do surgery, all sorts of stuff. So we will find out how Patrick Mahomes rehabs from that. And like we said, Micah Parsons also out for the year with an ACL tear. Phillip Rivers will remain the Colts quarterback QB1 for Monday Night Football versus the 49ers. Look, the story is great. Paul went out there. It wasn't pretty at times, but Rivers held his own. He didn't embarrass himself. Man had his dad bod going. Helped the Colts get down the field for the go-ahead field goal. Just the Colt defense, they were phenomenal all game. Couldn't get the stop on the final Seahawk drive. Seattle got the game-winning field goal. But hey, Phillip Rivers, that was just a cool story yesterday, even though the Colts lost. See that cat out there at 44 years old? And his team was watching him. His high school team that he has coached, they were watching on TV, and they had a camera there. It was good stuff. So Phillip Rivers will remain the starting quarterback for the Colts, which also shows you the desperation of the Colts bringing a 44-year-old guy in who hasn't played in 5 years, because they were out of quarterbacks and they scanned the world, the wasteland of unemployed quarterbacks, and said, let's call the dude who retired 5 years ago. He knows the playbook. But that was Phillip Rivers' good story, even though the Colts lost yesterday. One final minute here before we go, and thank you very much for your calls and your text messages about Steve Tannehill. If you hadn't heard, the former Gamecock great passed away early this morning at age 52. Got a text message here, unnamed texter, says, My memory of Steve Tannehill is burned in my mind forever when he autographs the Tiger Paw at Clemson. To this day, I still get shivers watching that highlight. Rest in peace, number 18. And we definitely agree with that. We'll be back tomorrow with the post-game show. Jay will not be with us. He'll be in Raleigh getting treatment. And then he'll be back with us on Wednesday. Best of the Game is next. Monday Night Football later, right here on The Game.